Hi everybody, welcome to Sprague Woodturning. My name is Jim. If you haven't been here before, this is predominantly a turning channel where each and every week I show people how to make things on the lathe. Over my shoulder you'll see a piece of bird's eye maple and black walnut, kind of the opposite spectrums of the scale here as far as hardwoods are concerned in Canada. And what I want to do is combine these in the same casting and make a hollow form out of these pieces. So in the end it should give us a really neat look, and it's something I've been wanting to do for a while. So this week is the week. Let's head over to the bench and I'll show you exactly where I want to cut these pieces and how I want to actually turn them once they're mounted on the lathe. So yeah, these are the two pieces that I was thinking. I don't really know. I might do it like this. That way I can save this. But I like how these really kind of fit together nicely. This is the template that we're going to use. This is actually the bucket that we're going to use. So I have a template that's cut for the bottom of that. So that sits on there pretty good. I will still hold on to these pieces and use them at a later date, but I think that this is what we're going to do here. So most of my hollow forms that I combine two natural edge pieces together are usually in this orientation. And what I want to do is turn it so that the resin band runs in this kind of around the top. So the hole will be in the top. And then of course you'll have a resin band around each side and then wood on the other. So that's my thought process with this piece. So what we need to do now is just draw these out, and then we'll go over and cut these out on the bandsaw and get some resin mixed up. Something like that. So as you watch me prep these pieces for the casting process, I'd like to thank you all for stopping in to watch the video. If you are not aware of it, I do upload every Friday at 9 a.m. Eastern, and I turn my videos into premieres so that we can use the live chat function. And anyway, pop in and have a look and see what's going on. So yeah, I've been waiting to do this for a while, combining the light and the dark woods, and of course with the orange tinted epoxy, I think it's a really cool look. Again, removing the bark off these pieces is so important. You definitely do not want the epoxy to adhere to the bark. You want it to adhere to the wood itself. So all I'm using here is a brass coated brush, and then you'll also see me use a 40 grit flap sander, and that will give a really good tooth to the epoxy to bond to, so that we don't have any delamination issues in the future. This is the main reason why the bark needs to come off. I know that some people still kind of question that, but it is never a good practice to leave the bark on pieces that are going to be cast, because in the future they certainly could fail and fall apart. And nobody wants that. And there you can see the bird's eyes, quite prominent there. And I love my bird's eye maple. It's a beautiful thing. And we're going to glue these pieces down in the bucket because I don't want them moving around and I don't want to put a weight on the top of it. All right, while we wait for this to harden up, let's mix up some resin. We've got ourselves quite a deep pour this week, so we're going to be using deep casting epoxy from Designer Epoxy. And along with that, we're also going to be using some pumpkin orange. Haven't used that in a while, so I thought that we would use that. And some red, purple, and blue Hypershift. Now I do find that the Hypershift will tend to lighten whatever project you're working on. So what I've been doing lately is adding just a little bit of black pearl, and then that kind of restores the original color. And I don't know, I find it just gives it a richer look. Don't forget to scrape them sidewalls and the bottoms. All right, so here's the first 1.5 liters. I suspect this is going to take a minimum of 2 of these, but we'll find out. I'll mix the next batch up the same and I'll be right back. All right, so here's another 1.5 liters. Hoping this is going to do it, but kind of skeptical that it is. All right. So that is 5.5 inches deep. Oh man, I know that this is a little punky, and I don't know, I'm worried about the resin level dropping off. I mixed up another 3/4 of a liter and that's it. All right, so here it is. This will bring this to 3 3/4 of a liter. Ooh, what's that? This is what happens when you reuse your buckets. Make sure you clean them out properly. All right, I think it'll be a small miracle if this doesn't thermal crack. But I guess we'll find out here in 72 hours. I'm not going to bother putting this in the vacuum chamber. I realize that this is a little punky on this side, but it's so punky that I know it's going to absorb the resin, and I'm not real concerned about it. Anyway, see you guys in there in 72 hours. Good morning. So I thought I would open up the pressure pot and have a look and see what we were looking at today, just to make sure that there wasn't some thermal cracking. Now this is only 48 hours after the pour, and this still should be pretty pliable, so I'm a little concerned that we might have some thermal cracking in here. So we're going to pop this casting out, have a look at it, make sure that there isn't some issues with it, and if there isn't, we'll throw it on the lathe and carry on. Interestingly enough, there's no thermal cracking. I thought there would have been. But this is softer on the bottom here, so we're going to have to leave this another day. Okay, we'll throw this back in the clean room. We'll give it another 24 hours and it should be ready to go. See you then. So the whole idea of opening the pressure pot at the 48 hours to see if there's any thermal cracking, and if there was, then we'd be able to address it and still not be late on the video this week. Starting off here with the number 3 Hercules from Hunter Tool Systems. I will just touch briefly on why I didn't throw this in the vacuum chamber. If you were working with pieces of wood, so the heartwood on that maple was extremely punky. Like I could have taken a screwdriver and probably drove it in, say, a 1/2 inch or maybe even deeper. So when the wood is that soft and punky, you don't really have to use the vacuum chamber because the pressure pot will push that resin into those areas. If there was a ton of cracks in these pieces, and I mean, I will say that there would have been nothing wrong with throwing this in the vacuum chamber before throwing it in the pressure pot, but I just didn't really see the need for it. And there was only one spot on this whole piece that really needed to be addressed. Other than that, the casting itself was pretty much flawless. So I don't know if you've noticed the video quality, but this video is being shot in 4K. I will say this, that I've yet to upload this video, and that could be an issue. I know that the video files are absolutely huge. Like I've got a 1 terabyte memory on my computer, and you know, just the footage from, I'll say 6 hours took 500K of storage. So it takes a long time to save those files and to move them around. So we'll have to see how the upload goes tonight, because I'm using Starlink. But there's your first indication as to what this piece is going to look like. The resin should really polish out nicely, and you can see where that lighter area in the bird's eye maple is now completely changed color because, of course, all the resin has been pushed into that area, making it a good solid casting. So this may be the one and only 4K video. we'll have to see how this goes with the upload tonight. I really do want to bring you guys the best kind of footage that I can give you, but we'll have to see how it goes. Last video that I uploaded that had some 4K footage in it took almost 6 hours to upload. So this one is going to have probably twice that amount of footage. So we'll see. All right, so it is decision time as to what we're going to do with this piece. I am not concerned about this or pretty much any of this in the upper area. The resin is going to polish up absolutely fantastic. And the bird's eye are showing through elongated. I'm assuming this is that rotten area within that bird's eye maple piece. And there you can really see the bird's eyes in their rotten form, if you will, that have been stabilized. And again, it'll be more apparent when we get deeper into this, but these little streaks you see, those are actually from the bird's eye. So what we're going to do with this is make a Southwest hollow form. Haven't done one of those in a while. Pot, if you will. It's probably more a pot than a hollow form. And so we're going to end up with a big fat bottom. We'll sweep in to the top to an opening, diameter about this big. I don't know, maybe smaller. We'll figure that out as we go. So that's why I'm not real concerned about these areas here, because they're going to be turned away anyway. Definitely it is heavy on the bird's eye maple side. And of course, bird's eye maple typically happens in hard maple, and hard maple is a lot denser than walnut. So hopefully we can get rid of some of this weight and I can pick up the speed. Right now, I can only do 475. Anything above that, it vibrates too much. All right, that's enough talking. Let's start doing. In an ideal situation, you would combine woods with the same sort of density. It doesn't really matter what the species is. If they have the same density, then things should theoretically turn the same within balance. Another consideration is if you have a really big heavy resin pocket on one side, that will definitely throw things off when you're on the lathe. And ideally you want to be 1,000, 1,200 when you're turning resin. I find that a lot of times it's very hard to achieve that, especially with the kind of castings that I do. Since people are really keen on these house updates and as what's happening, believe it or not, so this is Thursday, well, it's Thursday at 11 right now in the morning, and we just had a showing. We had a showing at 9 o'clock. We have not heard back as to any feedback on it, and we've also started renovating the deck that's outside. I think that when that's done, it's actually going to look quite nice. And next week, they should be coming in to template the countertops for the kitchen. So other than that, there hasn't been any showings, and it's been really quiet. So just pretty typical for the year so far, I would say. But we're still hoping that this is going to happen this year. The big move. I'm dreading the big move, but I'm looking forward to the big move. That's kind of where I am at it. But anyway, as I say, it is what it is, and there's nothing we can do about it. We're just still waiting for the right person to come along, and hopefully that is soon. So I left this zoomed out footage in. There's a fair bit of it here, just to give you an idea of when I've got pieces, like I'm 100% winging this. As I said in the past, I don't typically step to the lathe with a clear-cut idea as to what I want to do. I don't like being handcuffed in that regard. So, I'm taking a bit off, standing back, looking at it, shaping a little more, standing back and looking at it, because once it comes off, that's it. It can't go back on. So you only got one shot at this. So when you get down to this stage, it's important to take your time and to make sure that you get the form in the style that you're going for. Because if you don't, well, you may have to pour another casting. So this has a fairly wide bottom on it, so that's what I'm working on here. And of course, you need a very light touch, especially now you're down to pretty much the form. There'd be a little bit more refining from here, but it's important to go very lightly on this and not get any big tear out and chunks. Now, I never bothered turning a tenon. I figured that was enough that I could throw inside the dovetailed jaws, and that would hold it very well, and it certainly did. I was a little, I'm not going to lie to you, I was a little concerned that how well this was being held. So you'll see me kind of hammer on it, and it didn't seem to go anywhere. So I'm like, okay, I'll continue on here. So in relationship to the form, as you can see, the foot on this piece is actually quite large. But that's most Southwest style hollow forms look like this. And just a little bit of 60 grit on the bottom here to give the hot melt glue a good contact surface for the birch waste block to attach to. I should mention that I am using the 5/8 bowl gouge from David Ellsworth to cut this dovetail tenon, and you'll see here in a second. I'll get out the other dovetail jaw set that I've got and try it on her to make sure that it's going to fit, and sure enough it does. So just a little bit more refining on that, and then once I knock this little nub off, we'll be able to reverse this and clean up the bite marks that were left behind from the jaws and the chuck. And, again, I didn't have this down to its final dimension. I knew that there was going to be some marks left behind. So this resin isn't fully set yet, so that's why you see that it's kind of indented a bit. So we'll clean this up again with the Hercules, and you'll never know that there was any bite marks there. So while you watch me clean up the bite marks and refine this form a little bit more, I'll just briefly talk about last week's project. And if you missed it, I will link it at the end of this video. But it was she oak pods with some Purple Heart and blue tinted resin. And it was a hit. Thank you to those who watched it. Really, all of those colors together seem to work really well. I find that they work well together. So again, thanks to those who watched that video, and if you missed it, I will link it at the end of this one. So there's a really cool look. Really like the color variation within the black walnut, and of course, now that the punky area has been filled in with the resin, it's completely changed the color of that. So it all really kind of blends together nicely, to be perfectly honest with you. So we're going to drill this out. I don't talk about the hollowing rig here in the upcoming clips. I was told that, and I mean, I'm no expert in this field, But if you shoot all 4K and then you upload a video file with that isn't 4K, that it will get automatically reduced to whatever that video file is. I am certainly no expert in this field by any stretch of the imagination. So if you've got some camera experience, I'd love to hear from you in the comments on that subject. So I am using the same captive system from oneway.ca, and I'm using the round shank cutter that I used last week from Hunter Tool Systems, and I really like this cutter. I like the fact that it is 100% adjustable. You can put it more vertically if you wish, or horizontally if you wish. I'm really glad that Mike sent this to me to try out, and hopefully he has them available on his website soon. There is still a bit of an issue with the clamping block. The clamping block needs to be a little bit larger, I think, to hold it firmly in place. It did move on me once, but what typically happens is it turns more vertical. And of course, when it's in its vertical position, it doesn't seem to cut as aggressively. So I was just going along and I was like, what's going on here? It doesn't seem to be cutting all that well. And I looked and the cutter had moved into the vertical position. So I do end up switching to the other cutter that's longer. And the great thing about that is you're able to, there it is right there. It's I can't remember the length of it, but for the most part, I was able to use the straight boring bar here for this piece for, I'd say, probably 90% of this. I do switch back to the double bent bar for the system here, but for the most part, between the two cutters, I was able to do probably 90% of this piece. So happy days for that, because I really do like the more robust bar. It tends to not vibrate as badly, especially when you've got a lot of tool overhang. I wasn't able to really move the tool rest up close to this piece just due to the size of it and the base that's on this steady rest that my son made for me in high school. But anyway, I really like these cutters, and hopefully Mike gets them up on his site, and then they'll be available for all. But so far, so good. Really glad that he sent these to me. So what you're looking at there is a 3/16" retrofit tool, and of course the clamping block. And that does fit on the bent bar, the double bent bar, and the bent bar for this system. Yet there's not a lot holding it, but it does seem to hold it quite well. It doesn't move around. So what I've done is taken the cap screw out that ordinarily comes with this system and put a bolt in so that you can actually, I do find anytime you're using anything that's got an Allen head screw in it, they tend to strip out. So if I can swap that out and put a normal bolt in, that's what I'm going to do every time, because as a former mechanic, I know what I'm dealing with. I don't like the fact that they like to use these Allen head screws, or cap head screws, if you will. But if you use a bolt in here, you won't have any issues, and you can really tighten it down quite well, and it works really well. So finally on to sanding. Yeah, that's just my drill extension, and we're going to start sanding this at 60, and I'm only going to go to 180 because we're going to do another epoxy coat on the inside and the outside of this piece. There's a lot of end grain in this piece, so I think that this will definitely do well for an epoxy coat. And there was one small little natural crack area that needs to be filled in, but other than that, it was pretty clean. And when that's done, I'm going to support the end of it with the cone that goes on my live center and trim up the outside. Now there were just some slight rub marks from the wheels from the steady rest on this piece. And I now know I had a couple of pieces that looked like almost where the resin had kind of twisted. It had like twist marks in it. And I now know the reason for that is because in both of those cases, the wheels weren't running square to the piece and it generated a lot of heat. So where I had the wheels running on this piece, the wheels could land straight onto it, and they don't make a lot of friction, so it doesn't really mess with the epoxy all that much. But it does leave a few marks behind that you need to clean up. So anyway, just like on the inside, we're going to sand this from 60 to 180 and get our resin coat on. All right, what I have here is 3 ounces of the Pro Series, and we're going to dump this in here, swish it around, and then dump it out. Leave it upside down for about 10 minutes or so, then we'll put it on the outside. All right, I'll see you in about 10 minutes. So just using a silicone barbecue brush to apply it to the outside of this piece. I know that I've covered this before, but if you use a normal brush to do this, you're probably just going to pull the hairs out of it and that's going to be embedded in your finish. I forgot to put duct tape on the jaws. So as I was working my way down to the bottom of the form, I was like, oh yeah, I got to cover those up because I don't want my jaws to be covered in epoxy. And then of course my gloved hand, just to kind of rub it in. If there are any little cracks and voids, it'll push it into those voids. And then when that's done, we'll hit this with the torch just to try and get rid of any bubbles that are left behind. Well, what do you think of that? That resin is absolutely spectacular. Lots and lots of character in the black walnut, which is right there. And look at that. Awesome as well. And there's your bird's eye maple. Should be able to see the bird's eye streaks in there, along with this two-tone soft punky grain, which I think is very cool. And there's the inside. You know how much of that you're going to see, but very cool. I really like it. Let me know in the comments what you think. Look at that. Crazy. Right, see you tomorrow for the first coat of Waterlux. Well, good morning. It is the next day. We did get some bubbles down inside of here, so I'll probably do another coat. I know it's hard to see down in there. Anyway, there is some bubbles down in there, so we'll have to give that a quick sanding. One thing that I did yesterday, if you remember, there was a crack right here, and I was having a hard time keeping the epoxy from flowing out of it. So I just put a bunch of epoxy on there and I stuck a piece of plastic on there and it held. So it filled in that crack, so that's good. Just a little area, I might have to do a little bit of filling with some CA glue, but other than that, it's good. All right, so we're gonna sand to 800 on this piece, start at 180, and we'll get our first coat of Waterlux on. I was quite surprised at how well that worked. I thought for sure that it was just gonna slide down the form, but you know, especially if the epoxy is starting to get really tacky, give that a try. You might be surprised. It'll stay in place and hold that epoxy in there until it sets. Just like I always do, we're going to use some Triple E buffing compound from the Beal buffing system. And then when that's done, we'll clean it with some denatured alcohol. And everybody's favorite part, first coat of Waterlux. Yuck, that's why I got to clean them pieces. All right, here's your first coat of Waterlux gloss. So there's a few things to keep in mind when you're working with film finishes like this. Waterlux is one of the best for sure. Make sure the finish is as fresh as possible, and this is one of the reasons why you should be using stop loss bags, especially an expensive finish like this. And applying the right amount of product is also crucial. And all I ever do is buff between coats, clean with the denatured alcohol, and it usually will take 2 to 3 coats and you'll get the same finish that I'm getting each and every week. Well, there it is in its first coat of Waterlux. Man, it almost looks like flames, doesn't it? Of course, the dark and the light. Love it. Little epoxy coat or epoxy area there. Lighting is just not doing it for me today. That's a little better. I did sand down inside. That's going to get another coat of resin. Epoxy, sorry. Yeah, look at that. And the bird's eyes are now starting to stand out very well. See them there? Streaks. So it is, it's 10 o'clock in the morning right now, and I have to double or 2 coat this because of taking Canada Day off, July the 1st. So hopefully 2 coats are going to do it. It's definitely going to need another one. But anyway, we'll see you when you do the bottom. I'll do the other coats the same way that I did this one. Let me know in the comments what you think. Really, really like the effect of the epoxy going around this way as opposed to this way like I usually do. So I did manage to put 2 coats of finish on the same day. I know that the manufacturer does not recommend that, but you know, I was kind of in a pinch for time, so it worked out. I do find that if it's the second coat, a lot of times the first coat dries fairly quickly. But if it's the third coat going over top of the second coat, then, you know, sometimes it needs a little bit more time for it to cure up before you can actually do anything with it. So once we're done cleaning this up with the Hercules, we're going to sand the bottom of this. I went to 400. I didn't see the need to go any higher than that. Special thanks to those who watched the video all the way through. And of course, the membership. Thank you so much for your support. And if you do want to become a member of my channel, it's $2.99 Canadian a month if you want to, and for that I will provide extra content. All right, let's have a last little chat about this little unique holoform / pot. Well, it's going to be interesting to see what you guys think about this beautiful little holoform pot, if you will. That epoxy with the hyper shift, pumpkin orange, and of course the pearl. Black pearl is really cool. Lots of color variation within the walnut. And again, I know it's so shiny that it's really hard to really showcase it here. Not a ton of different color, but you know, I do like the fact that it goes all the way through. And I don't think that's something that we've done so far that I can recall anyway. I don't know, I've made hundreds of videos now, so it's all a blur. It really is. The two-tone variation with the punky wood and the good solid bird's eye maple is awesome. And these streaks that you see along here, that is the bird's eye. I know it might be a little hard to see. Here is the very bottom. I only signed on the maple because there was lots of room there, so I thought it was that was good. If you sign on the black walnut, when the finish goes on, sometimes it's quite hard to see. So the lighter woods will certainly work when it comes to doing hand signing, like this is. Size on this: 8.5 inches at its widest dimension, 5.5 inches tall, and it's anywhere from 1/2 inch to 1/4 inch in thickness. I will mention that this piece is for sale. It will require another coat of finish all over the piece and probably 3 on the bottom. But if you are interested in this piece, send me an email to spraguewoodturning@gmail.com and I will disclose the price then in case this is a gift. Anyway, let me know in the comments what you think about this beautiful little holoform / pot, Southwest style. Don't forget to put designer epoxy in the comments down below. Be entered into the 3-gallon giveaway at 130,000 when we get there. And of course, that is only for continental USA and Canada. Sorry, the rest of the world, we can't accommodate you at this time. And as far as leaving a comment down below, you'll also be entered into my giveaway at 130,000 when we get there. So it doesn't matter where you are in the world, I will ship it to you at my expense if you are the winner. So comment away. I don't really know what we're going to do next week. I've been tied up kind of with the house, and so anyway, I think maybe an inlay video of some sort. I haven't done one of those in a while, so it's certainly time to do maybe an inlay video, so that's what we might do next week. All right, well, that's it. Take care, stay safe. Don't forget the bell. Please share my videos with your friends. That is the largest way for me to build my presence here on YouTube. I would really appreciate it, and of course, that thumbs up will always help YouTube push my content to others when they see it. So please give my videos a thumbs up. All right, have a great weekend. Hopefully we'll see you next week. Take care.